You're listening to the Unemployed Bartender Podcast with your host, Keith Carter.
They've already clicked off of the show.
You know, I haven't listened to many podcasts.
This is riveting for your listeners. You do realize this, right?
Yeah, I don't know. What else do you want to talk about?
Do you put like little outtakes in the intro of your podcast?
All of this can be cut out because it's pretty much just a podcast. New episodes every Friday. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at the UB Podcast. All right, welcome to another episode of the Unemployed Bartender Podcast. I'm your host, Keith Carter. Really excited to welcome in my guest today, Mr. Terrel Marcus, otherwise known as TMark, or styled by TMark, or TMark Got Kicks. You might have heard of him that way. What's up, man? Appreciate you coming on the show.
Nah, man, I appreciate you having me on the show.
It's been a minute. I think we tried to connect a couple months back.
Yeah, definitely 2020. So
Yeah.
I'm happy we were able to get it done in 2021. So
I think it speaks volumes of what, 2021 is going to be a bigger, better year, more prosperous, more connective. And I took that as a good sign when, we were able to get this together. It was like, okay, yeah, I already feel good about 2021 because this year has been crazy, crazy so far. And it's been too much. Last week I had one of the top political Democratic talking heads, I guess I would say, on, and we talked about all that crazy shit. And this week I really just wanted to just talk, sports and Yankees and your shit and all music, whatever.
Try to get back to the norm, right?
Yeah.
A little bit.
So it really worked out to have you on. So anyway, I want to kind of let people know how I kind of came across you. Other people might have seen your stuff for a while. I'm kind of newish to New York. I've been there about I guess almost 4 years now.
Okay.
Because I lost a year that I forget about with COVID. But it's coming up there.
Where you originally from?
From Arkansas, born and raised. Always wanted to live in New York. Always been a Yankees fan since as long as I can remember, and was a Buffalo Bills fan. For some reason, I was just drawn to the sports scene and the sweet East Coast hip hop stylings of many of the great musicians from this city, and it kind of just always had this draw. And now I'm here 4 years later. So
That's good, man. That's amazing. How was the transition for you, honestly? 'Cause I know Arkansas. My brother went to school in Arkansas, so I was out there for a little bit. Yeah, he went to Arkansas University.
that's where I went. U of A.
I was thinking about going there for on a scholarship to hoop, but I ended up going to Towson University. So
Oh yeah,
in Maryland.
yeah. I'm familiar with Towson.
Towson University.
Yeah, I was I'm a 6'1", so I didn't have any options for playing hoops at the Arkansas, but I was in the marching band. I got a full music ride there, so
Okay.
that was cool because I got to kind of feel like I was a part of the athletic department. We got to travel and do all that stuff, but
Yeah.
that was still dope. But that's cool. Not a lot of people in New York have heard of Arkansas or knows where it is on a map. I discovered when I moved up here because people were like, "Oh, is that Midwest? That's up next to Illinois somewhere." I'm like, man, Arkansas is in the South, dude. Like, it's way down to the South.
Yeah, from the South.
It's South.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was during this pandemic that I was at this brewery that had just opened up during the pandemic, and there was a bartender that was working, and she had this really nice Yankees hat with a Wu-Tang logo on the side.
That's fire.
I was like, yo, where did you get that hat? And she's like, it's I don't know, I got it on Instagram, TMark something. I'm like, tell me exactly where it is, who it is. I've got to get the hat. And then the only thing that's kept me going this pandemic is as I discover stuff I like, I'm like, who made this? All right, get them on the show. I got to talk to them. I just want to chat with. I like to talk with people that make cool things, and stuff catches my eye. Then it makes me want to know. I know that I want to have a conversation with you. So you're from here. Tell me your story. Like, you're born and raised in New York. How'd you kind of get going in what you're doing now? And
So I'm born and raised in the Bronx, but New York. Like, for us, we always say what borough we're from.
Yeah.
So, like, New York, we're so divided, but we come together in certain things. But I'm from the Bronx, from Soundview houses in the Bronx. Grew up. I got two older brothers that's into fashion. I got my mom was into fashion and stuff like that. So I'm the youngest out of three. So by default, it kind of like trickled down to me by default. So I always been into like sneakers and fashion and stuff like that. And my stepdad, he was like one of the biggest Yankee fans that I knew growing up. And when the Yankees was winning all those years in the '90s, we was going to the parades and he was taking us to games. And like he used to buy me and my brother, my middle brother, Yankee hats every time we got paid because we was living on Simpson Street. I was still in Soundview going back and forth, and my mom and him was living on Simpson Street, Hunts Point, in the Bronx, and there was so many hat stores. So every time he got paid, he would buy us a Yankee hat. So, I gravitated towards the Yankees more so for him, like because of him. So that was always something near and dear to me because I remember going to the parades and going to games, and it just felt like at a time where it was like it felt like every year we was going to a
Oh,
parade, even though when you look back, it's like it really wasn't every year, but it felt like it. So, to fast forward, I always was into sneakers and stuff because I used to hoop. So I mean, I still hoop here and there, but I used to hoop where it was very serious, where junior high school, college, collegiate, and stuff like that. And I got hurt, but me and Kimball Walker grew up together. We grew up in the same neighborhood, and uh, our junior high school team was like the number one junior high school team in the nation. And
I'd
I went to
imagine.
high school. Yeah, so um, my love for sneakers is always because of that, and we used to always kind of like compete on what the people in the NBA is doing now, like uh certain sneakers that they wearing. Like we used to do that in junior
Yeah.
high school and stuff like that. So AAU and all of that good stuff. So that's pretty much where my passion came from, sneakers. And then it's like when I got older, I kind of started learning more about it, and like yo, it's really like a community. It's really a culture into it. Like we're doing it to hooping, but or we're doing it to put an outfit together. But there's people that's like collecting this stuff. Like we was wearing it, going to parties, dogging them, and waiting for the next pair.
Yeah.
But there was people that was like, nah, I'm not wearing these to the club. I'll wear something else because I want to keep these clean and pristine and stuff like that. So the older I got and I started spending my own money on shoes, that's when I started realizing, like, oh, okay, I got to separate the pairs that I want to hoop in from the pairs that I want to actually keep. And then when I started doing that, that's when like the collection started growing. It wasn't nothing crazy, but it was a good amount. And then anytime I got allowance or anything like that, like I was pointed towards sneakers or my grandmother, my grandfather, my mom. Or, I had people that I could ask and I would save. And then I started learning how to, trade stuff for other stuff. And all of that stuff came like after, but um, that's pretty much like the sneaker journey. And then the hat journey, I want to say probably like 2 years ago, a year and a half, 2 years ago, where my barber was like, "Yo, you got to stop wearing hats every day," because I wasn't, and I stopped wearing hats for a little while because he's like, "Yo, you're gonna your hairline is," and I was like, "All right, cool." So I just stopped wearing hats for a while, and I just thought I was like, "Yo, I never seen anybody collect all 27 World Series Yankee hats." So when I got back into it, that was my mission. Like I treated it like if it was sneakers,
Hmm.
like I'm gonna hunt these down and I'm gonna collect all 27. Then it's like you learn so much in that journey. Like I learned they did years that they lost. then it's just like it just became so passionate. And when I started doing it, me and a couple of my friends, we had conversations like, "Yo, what if we started doing, you know, our own side patches, our own things on hats?" And the conversation, we just had the conversation. Like nothing really happened from that, but I took that conversation and ran with it because it was like, oh, well, I'm really into Yankee hats. How can I bring something different that hasn't been done to the Yankee hat and or any hat? And for me, I did a lot of research. I did a lot of research. Like before I even did my first sample, like it was so much, like it went weeks and probably like at least a month where I even started even thinking about finding a person that can embroider it on a hat and stuff like that. And because I wanted to make sure I was the first to do
Mhm.
it. I didn't want to I didn't want to try to recreate something that was already done.
I understand that
So
100%. That's an important part to have ownership of it.
yeah, if you do remember, they did like the Diplomats hat. They did it on the front. They did the Rough Rider hat on the front. Wu Tang, like everybody did it on the front. They never did it on the side.
Hmm.
So I was like, okay. I remember when I was really really into hats. Side patches was a big thing because every store didn't have them.
Hmm.
Every store didn't have side patches like how it is now. Now it's kind of like anywhere you go. So I was like, I want to kind of keep it simple, but I kind of I want to make it make sense. Like people didn't ask me to do Rockefeller hats on the Mets hat, and I'm
Yeah,
like, that doesn't make sense to me. Jay-Z
would not.
never publicly wore anything of the Mets,
Yeah.
and I doubt he wore it just to wear it. So even when throwback jerseys, like he was never into Mets anything. Like he was always the Yankees.
Yeah. No, I mean it makes sense. Like Nas and Queens, like that makes
Yeah,
sense.
but that's why. But even with somebody like Nas wore a lot of Nas is from Queensbridge. Queensbridge is down the block from Shea Stadium or City Field, whatever you want to call it. And but he also wore Yankee stuff too. Like there's, like a lot of old photo shoots he's wearing Yankee stuff, but he also wears Mets. So yeah, that I can kind of probably do both
Yeah.
and create the story, flip the colors so it can make sense. Same thing with Mobb Deep and same thing with Tribe Called Quest and Q-Tip and them. And but you would be so surprised what people ask me to do that just doesn't make sense because they want me to cater to them, but what I built it on was, storytelling.
Yeah. For me, it was instantly kind of recognizable the story you were telling. Like it's like okay, all this makes sense, but it's also really evident. Like something something I always talk about is like finding that thing that where that passion and your heart kind of connects with some sort of commerce, some sort of way to make money. Like you need to figure out how to monetize your passions. And the closer you can
Yeah.
get to that, the more it's going to be. And that's the thing. People see these like simple ideas. It's like, wow, I could have thought of that. That's so simple. That's so easy. But the thing is, you didn't. And the reason why those people have a platform to show because it gained popularity is because of the passion and the details and everything that they put into that.
Yeah. People don't understand, man, how many samples I had to go through to even get it right. For me to feel comfortable to even sell it.
Yeah.
Because people would be like, nah, man, I don't know if I could do it. It's too much details. And because at that time, people wasn't really embroidering hats. Like they was doing it, but they would do the front. They wasn't doing side patches.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much like the smaller it is, the harder it is to get
To
all of
get
the
that
details.
detail and get it thick and look nice.
Yeah, my thing is with that, and then it's also getting the cosigns. Like I felt like I did it in the right way. I did it where it was more so like I know Clark Kent. I want to link with Clark Kent because I know he knows this person, that person. He knows everybody pretty much. I want to link with Mayor because I know he's close to Fat Joe and he's Terror Squad, and I want to reach out to them and tell them the idea. And I thought they was gonna be like, yo, nah, like, oh, that's been done. I was hoping for that, and they was like, nah, this has never been done, never, like ever, like. And I was just like, it was just mind-boggling hearing it from them when they telling me like, yo, this is genius, like this is something that it's never been done. Like Clark Kent would tell me, like I would have talks with him, yo, I done got so much stuff from New Era and Japan, and I've been everywhere, and this has never been done ever. And I was just like, yo, that's crazy. And I'm not sure if you know my first pop-up I did, I created baseball cards, like, but I had pretty much like the rap crew, whoever, if it was a Wu-Tang card, like I had
Like the rap stats.
Wu-Tang. Yeah, I had like the rap stats, but I had like a photo of them in Yankee apparel, and yeah, but when I did the baseball cards, it was kind of like, yo, he really got something that's crazy. And for me, I just wanted to make the connection, cause why do the rap stuff on the baseball hat, right? How does rap and baseball connect? When you think of rap, you probably think of basketball, maybe football,
Hmm.
but you don't think baseball.
Only in a city like New York does that really. What, L.A., New York? There's some big time baseball culture.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is we're fans,
Yeah,
but it's more so like I wanted to find out how can I connect it for it to make
yeah.
sense to the world. Because okay, you think Jay-Z, you might just think his music. You might not think, okay, he's a Yankee fan. You might not think that. Like that might not be the first thing that comes to your mind. But like,
Oh yeah. The Verrazano on the back, so it's like that's Staten Island. It's Wu Tang.
but
Yeah,
this is how I wanted people to know is the connection.
yeah. No, that's great.
Like even when I did this, it was just like, wow, people was going crazy. And it just took time. It took time. It took time. And I'm happy I didn't rush it because when I put the sample photo out, everybody was like, yo, you gotta drop this. This is crazy. And I'm like, it's not time. I wasn't in love with the samples because I'm like, oh, to sell it, for me to have it is different.
Yeah.
But for me to sell it, it has to be on point. It has to.
So I owned a clothing brand company for 7 years, and I've done design work for people all over the country with graphic tees and stuff. Is typically my game.
Okay.
But I make all kinds of shit for myself. Just like I'll order blanks of stuff in, kind of put it in piles, and just like kind of go through it.
Yeah.
And if I get an idea one day, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna put that on that. I'm gonna wear it around, kind of see what kind of opinion, see if anyone reacts. I watch people's eyes, and if I get X number of like glances over or points, or people approach me, all those would get like kind of ranked in points, and it kind of gives me like a virality of my new product, kind of a
Okay.
test
Yeah.
in like a small market. But that's been completely ruined by COVID right now.
COVID. Yeah. Yeah, man. COVID kind of stopped a lot. It stopped a lot, man.
It's the one good thing that I can take out of it. I think all of us that are in kind of a like a hustle first entrepreneurial style mentality took this time to learn something new, introduce more places to kind of hone in some expertise or add new styles and thoughts. I've expanded the creativity and the things that I'm working in so much in the last year. That's about the only thing there is to be grateful for. But
yeah, I think, certain things came out of people that COVID would have never hit. I think we was just too comfortable with how the norm was. And a lot of people got laid off. A lot of people, your back is against the wall. So it's either you figure it out or you drown. And people wasn't trying to drown. Like creators just wasn't trying to drown. And I feel like this was the perfect time for creators to shine because we get overlooked by these bigger companies.
yeah,
And these bigger companies physically they can't be open. So now everything is online, but everything is channeled through social media.
Yeah.
Like people's not really, Foot Locker and all of these brands, like not to say just single them out, but like even, some of these stores closed and, you know, because they rely on the in-store experience, they're relying on people coming in the store and spending money. A lot of people don't like ordering stuff online and, you know,
There was a lot of people that weren't ready for everything to just stop, and there was a lot of people that were, and then there's kind of a bunch of us in between that was like never quite ready for anything, but always ready for whatever's coming. And I think that's kind of
yeah,
where the creatives are. Because for me,
and it's so crazy.
on April 1st, I was supposed to open a new clothing label that I'd started called B-Rook. That I was supposed to launch in Chelsea Market and in the Soho Market. I was loading up on investing, all that stuff. Everything was coming to plan on April 1 was going to be that. That obviously didn't happen. I've kind of folded that whole plan into something else right now in the back burner, and obviously have this podcast and a bunch of other things I'm working on. But that's there's just a lot of people that can't. Think about it, how many t-shirt sellers outside of games, how many hat sellers outside of games on the tables. Every single person that hangs out downtown in Times Square to make money, that gets money from pictures of tourists and stuff like that. There's just a lot
You got
of
people
people.
dressing up like superheroes down there. It's different.
It's real different.
But like to touch on that is like I was able to work during COVID and I ended up quitting my job because of I believed in what I was doing
Yeah.
that much. Like it became
So
me
this was born
working
in
kind of
COVID.
yeah, I was working during COVID. I worked with StockX.
Okay.
I worked with StockX. My passion for sneakers is always gonna be there. And I learned a lot from that company. Not to talk bad or down at them at all, but it just became too much time consuming for me there being there, where I couldn't focus on my business, and it became I would drop a hat during work and I'm making more than two of my paychecks. It's like what? And it just became the side hustle with benefits, and the only reason why I stayed there, I think, as long as I did, because I was complaining a lot, and it's because my son was on my benefits.
Yeah.
Like, if it was no benefits involved, I would have been jump ship because I believed in what I was doing, and just getting that cosign from certain people, and bro, like I was able to meet LeBron, like, and give him a hat.
Yeah.
Like that's not you know, something like that. Like Nas is wearing my hat during his Breakfast Club interview talking about his album. Like
Yeah.
certain things and I was just like, yo, man, I can't be here. I just can't be here because I gotta believe in myself more than,
Yeah.
you know,
You got to give
and it
yourself
just
the mental
became more
bandwidth to be able to grow the way you need to grow. You can't do that if you're tiring yourself up and you're not allowing yourself to
yeah,
make those little.
yeah, 'cause it was tug of war. It was
Yeah.
tug of war. It was me pulling one way, like, all right, well, this is a job, but pulling further because it's like, yo,
That's
but
my
what you
life.
got here is like, is genius. You got to just keep building on that momentum.
All right. So I have a question about I know you said you met with Clark Kent, Fat Joe, and all those guys. Like, how does it work? Do you get like license for that, or is there kind of just like a loose knit like agreement, or?
I mean, so what it is pretty much just say Nas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Clark is in the photo to Nas. Nas is like, yo, that's fire. Nas don't really have a logo. Like his logo's NES.
Yeah.
So me and I'm gonna give a shout out to my boy Scruff and Ken Rock and Rico. Those are a lot of the people that I use for graphic design when I'm going back and forth with ideas and stuff like that. And they don't, like, certain rappers don't have logos. So, I wanted to create a logo for them, something different, something that represented, the area, something like that. Like the Mobb Deep one I did, it has like the Ed Koch Bridge, like the Queens Bridge behind it. It says infamous Mobb Deep, like Mobb Deep. Their logo is just infamous Mobb Deep. That's it, letters. So I wanted to kind of incorporate that. So to go back to your question, I mean, there's nothing written, but it's them pretty much giving the blessing.
Yeah.
Like Fat Joe wore the Big Pun hat and the TS hat.
You've gotten implied consent, at least from everybody. Like,
yeah,
like they're all
because
cool
it's
with
like,
it.
all right, I'm giving them a hat. They
Yeah.
could easily say, all right, well, I don't want him selling it.
Yeah.
They're kind of like giving their blessings, like, yo, this is fire. This is crazy.
I like that.
And so pretty much it's kind of like the blessing part of it. And I feel like as thus far, I've been going about it in the right way, where there's people trying to copy what I'm doing, but they're not going about it in the right way. So when things get tied up, it's kind of like, I'm kind of like trying to warn them, like, yo, I hope you guys are getting permission to use that Rockefeller logo.
Yeah.
Like Big's brother, Maul, that's on Joe Budden's podcast.
Mhm.
He reached out to me. Like, me and him spoke, and he loved what I was doing. Big's seen it. When Clark posted it, he's like, yo, Biggs F's with it, yo. He fucks with it because it's never been done, and it's something different. You're not just slapping Rockefeller Records on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Like, because he's like, Biggs is the person that'll send that cease and desist. Mobb Deep too. Havoc got a hat because Clark reached out.
Yeah.
And, having that, it could go either way. They could be like, yo, that's cool. Or they could love it.
Well, I think it kind of speaks to a lot of people. I mean, a lot of us, we've all had these ideas. We're like, man, it's a great idea. And then maybe you tell some people about it and be like, yo, isn't this a great idea? And they're like, yeah, it's a great idea. And then it kind of never really gets off the ground. But then what's kind of missing to kind of sell those ideas, something I like to do myself. And I can know you made the thing. It's like, hey, let me show you what I'm talking about. This is exactly what I'm trying to do right here. What do you think of this?
Yeah.
And when you create something that's new and never been done before, original, and all your passion's in it, and then you hand it to another person, there's this energy that passes that I see every time I sold anything in my life, especially something I've created. It's just like, you're like, hey, this is a thing that I made it for you. And you can see the warmth in their eyes as they receive this thing that you created for them. And they're like, wow.
Man. I see it and I hear it. Like, people reach out. Yo, I bought my first hat. I'm so excited. I'm hyped. I love it. Like, and I don't take that for granted, man. Like, I don't take it for granted at all.
It's the best feeling in the world that you could ever have. You create anything, doesn't matter what it is, and then watch someone else have the utmost appreciation for it as they receive it.
I think for me, what I still got to get used to is when I see people in the street wear it. That's so mind blowing to me, man. That's one of those feelings that is hard to explain, because it's like I did hats with Hat Club, and even seeing that, and it's like, yo, you TMark, right? Yo, I got your hat, and it's like, yo, like, it's so dope, because it's just like,
that's the fuel that drives, though. I mean,
yeah, it just makes me want to keep going, man.
My company was based out of Little Rock, but we were in about 42 states. It was a relatively decent venture. But I was in Dallas about a year after I started the company. It was back in 2014 at some concert, and walk into the bathroom, and a guy walks past me the other way in one of my shirts. I'm like, what the? What the hell? I was like, where did you get that shirt? And I'm like, he's like, oh, I bought it. He's like, I'm from Arkansas, but fast forward 5 years later, I was in Arkansas, and someone wearing one of my Oklahoma shirts that they bought in Oklahoma walked past me on the street in Arkansas. And I was like, okay, you're like traveling states. Like, I shipped it there. You went and got it and brought it back. Like
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
just a really intense, like cool feeling. Like we both felt it. We talked for like 35 minutes. We were just standing in the middle of the street. We're like, oh man, wow, this is so cool.
yeah, yeah. It's crazy, man. Even your story, how you seen my hat, is just like, I'm like, huh? What? That's crazy.
Yeah, no, I didn't expect to. For me, it was exciting because I expected, whatever, finish line or something
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not
or
even
whatever.
mad at that.
But I'm saying, just like it's too good to just be a guy, and that's kind
Yeah,
of how.
it's probably lids. It could have been lids. It could have been, yeah,
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 whatever. So I was just, she was like, no, it's a specific person. Here he is. This is Instagram. I'm like, okay, this is way better. This is one guy making some really, really, really
yeah.
dope stuff. So
And for me, it was kind of like I'm so into hip hop. Like I love, you know,
yeah,
even back to the 80s, that's like before my time, but like I'm a person like I love music. So even if it's before my time, 80s music, 90s music, early 2000s, and even current certain artists now, like for me, it was I made it passionate because I love music and what I was doing with the Yankee hats, and it just was perfect timing. Like I love Yankee hats. I feel like the Yankee hat you could wear with anything, like
hmm
any single thing. Like that's the hat you can wear with anything. I don't care what colors you have on. The navy and white just settles it down.
I just got a basic navy and white that's got a, somebody designed it. It's got a drip in the logo on the front.
Hmm.
I throw that thing on with everything. It's like my go-to because it's the basic navy with the white,
Yeah,
and it's got that little drip, and
yeah.
it's the best.
Oh, let me grab something. Like the hip hop stuff, I loved it, but then I started doing stuff to branch out and brand myself, and you know, so kind of created like an Instagram page called Yankee Boys, and was posting stuff that's Yankee related and reposting people that was wearing Yankee hats and stuff. I was like, hey, maybe I should do a patch Yankee Boys. Like this is one. This is the latest one. This one hasn't dropped, but
Yeah, that's
let's
nice. I
see.
saw the last. You have one that's been out though, right? Or is yeah, that's
Yeah, I have a
the with the
few.
white
I have a
background
few.
or the.
Yeah, I have a few. So
I'm
this one maybe
7.5. Is that 7.5?
a half. You're 7.5.
Yeah.
Okay. I got a which hat would you want? The Wu-Tang one?
Ooh. Um. Yeah. Or I don't know what you got. I'm not just.
I
I'm
got a
not
new
picky, man. I'm
Wu-Tang
not picky.
hat. I got a new Wu-Tang hat. I don't know if you see. I think you might have seen it. You had to see it. That one is
We can do
that one.
in exchange. I've got a series of different shirts. You'll have to check my website out when you get a chance. But a
Okay.
series of weird like T-shirts that I did for some things this year. So we'll do a little swap.
Yeah, man. I'm just trying to stay creative with this, man. This is the one right here though.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love that one.
This
I saw that
this
one
one.
a little while back.
Yeah, that one is crazy. Then I was just started like for me, I want to be creative and be different. So I just started just doing, you know,
So a Rough Rider Wu
just
Tang.
regular. Yeah. For me, and like different eras, but I just felt like they cruise was kind of similar the way they move, where it's like they just play by their own rules. Like X and them was doing what they wanted to do, and Wu Tang the same. Like the way they just kind of just kicked in the door and just made pretty much everything gold.
I
Like
guess that was
Rough
the
Riders.
golden era of cruise. You really don't see cruise anymore like that.
No, you don't. You don't.
The big kind of turning point, and this is where like I've always been a hip hop head, like a hip hop historian. I consider myself now after having spent years deep diving in it, but it all kind of culminated. Always, grew up listening to, all the stuff that you would, nothing but a G thing and
Yeah.
anything, not, rural Arkansas. So we weren't getting much NWA out there. This is 2001. I'm out, got my own place, got a roommate, and I meet this guy. And one of the most amazing lyricists, freestyle guys I ever met in my life. He could still like crush anybody that he ever faced. Really, really great guy. His name's James. I'll give him a shout out. He's got a new album coming out here out of Atlanta, so we'll drop that.
Okay.
But that when Stillmatic and Blueprint came out,
2001.
That time frame, that whole 3-month time frame, all I remember doing is just standing around in circles next to open cars and then putting it back and forth like, all right, is it Takeover, is it Ether, all right, which album is it, are they both 5 makes or whatever? And that kind of just really stimulated like just breaking down different things that people say and just understanding hip-hop in a whole other way. And that I think kind of influences that whole East Coast bent that I've got. But at that time, it's like, I got to have a Yankees cap. Like that's the definitive hat that I need right now.
Yeah, even then, it was like the Yankees versus the Mets when Nas and Jay-Z was going back at it. It was like, I mean, for me, Ether was just different. It was different from what I'm used to from Nas.
Yeah.
Like Nas is not like he can be, but he just, for me, I think Takeover wasn't only directed to Nas.
Well, that's my argument has always been, well, obviously he got one verse and Nas had the benefit of directing an entire song.
Yeah.
At that
I mean, I think Super Ugly, even when Irv Gotti spoke about Dame Dash spoke about Super Ugly. He said that Irv Gotti and them gassed Jay to do it, and he was away. I think he was in the Bahamas with Aaliyah or something. I think he went away and he came back and they gassed him up to drop it. I mean, it was disrespectful, but I'm not really like a big fan of that diss record. But what I am a fan of is Blueprint 2, the song. That I think if he drops that against Ether, and then it's a different conversation. But the first 2 songs that, I mean, if you want to say Takeover was towards him, which was a verse.
Yeah.
I don't think it was enough for Ether.
No.
Super Ugly, I think it was just him trying to hurt Nas' feelings. Like it was him, like it was just a personal thing and, an ego thing. Like
that comes from knowing each other too well too. That's like brothers getting into a battle and then be like airing your whole dirty laundry out on a record.
Mm-hmm. But if it's Blueprint 2 versus Ether, then I think it's a different conversation because, even though it was kind of like
snakes in the grass or cut the grass and the snakes
in the grass
show.
Cut the snakes to show. Yeah,
I do like that.
I think that one was a lot better and more planned and more. I think it was just more organized.
It was a more mature,
yes,
or defense, I guess, of
But I think Nas played that move right. Like it was chess versus checkers because Nas only dropped that one song. He might have threw jabs here and there, but he's like, all right, let me just drop Ether and that's it. Hove kind of like, it's what people do with Jay-Z. Like after that, you really couldn't get a response from Jay. Like Jay would, say a line, but he's not doing a song. Like after that, like he might have only just did the song for Nas. And I think he felt the defeat. Like the streets kind of like determined, yo, Nas got that one. And I don't think that sat well with Jay. So Jay, Irv and them was probably gassing him like, yo, you gonna let him talk about this? You gonna let him do that? And then he dropped Super Ugly. And then when it wasn't the response that it was supposed to be, that's when he probably when Dame and them probably was like, yo, you gotta just get back to what you know and get back to who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it's gonna happen, let it happen naturally. Because it just looks like he was forcing it after a while.
Yeah, and it was a really kind of poignant and like important moment in hip hop just because it was very important for Nas because it brought him into kind of a conversation that he hadn't really been in a while.
Yeah.
And it broadened him to a bunch of people that weren't hip hop heads. They're just like kind of got caught up in because if you talk to anybody that listened to hip hop in those months in that September of 2001, after the other shit that happened in September 2001, it was a lot of listening to Nas, and to those two albums was kind of dominated my life and everyone I was around. So it was like, and it only because of Ether that it become those two albums instead of just the Blueprint album, because it would have just been everybody listening to Blueprint.
Not saying that Stillmatic is a bad album. It's just, people gravitated towards Ether.
Well, he needed Ether to make it 5 mics, and he needed Ether to get the attention that it needed to see that.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, never would have. I mean, like, 4 mics, it's nice. Another solid, decent, whatever. But that changed kind of the conversation about it. You couldn't really even because he did kind of he did it. He got him. So then that kind of opened people's eyes. They're like, oh, so you can somebody can get Jay. So what else is this guy?
Yeah, 100%. I think it just didn't sit well with Hov, and to me, Hov is still the best rapper ever. Like, he's not on a list. I think he's just like the rap god.
Yeah,
and,
you can't.
You hear a lot of things, like even with Funk Flex when he said Drake is the best rapper ever, and if the reference songs would have never came out, he would have been. It's just like, for me, like, Drake is not a bad rapper, but I don't put him in that category. I put him in the category with the Pharrells. And
he didn't play the same music.
and,
He's more like experimental hip hop R&B.
He's an artist. Like, he's not a rapper. He's an artist. He's a person like, Chris Brown rap with Tyga, but I'm not gonna put him. Chris Brown's a rapper. No, he's an artist. He's an overall artist.
Also, not the same thing as saying that he couldn't be a rapper. He just chose to be an artist. Like, he's got talent. He could have come out and done. Right. He could have taken that other path.
I love when he raps, but for me, he has, and it's not only him, but it's a lot of artists where now they're at the point where just for them to stay relevant, they're gonna give a feature to whatever artist is hot right now for the moment. And I think when it comes down, long term, people's going to be able to say, I have a song with Drake, and they're not going to be relevant ever again. And that's not going to appreciate well, because he has so many features with people that it's people that he had features with from 3 years ago that they're not putting out any more music, but they're going to be able to get shows and stuff just because.
Yeah, that song they did with Drake. And half of I've been to those shows, and they have one verse on the song. The song will be like 7 minutes long. Right. They're going to play the whole thing and just come out, rap their 30 seconds, and be like, that's my song. That's why y'all are here for it.
Yeah, and it's like, I just think that's not going to appreciate well for his career down the line, because it's just like, all right, you want to do it. Like, I get it. You're not putting out music right now, but there's nothing for you to get on a song that's hot, because ain't nobody going to deny you. Nobody's going to tell Drake no. Like, nah, I don't want you. Nobody's going to tell you no. Like, but I just feel like you do songs with people that's either close to your caliber or above your caliber or the same. Not somebody that just has one thing. Like,
unless y'all are like best friends and you're bringing them up. Like, you're like, you know what? I told you I was going to get you if you did something, and now I got you. But
I feel like random people, like even with Jay wasn't doing features for everybody.
No.
Like, you got to earn the right for that.
It took Jay Electronica 10 years to get.
Come on. But it's not like Jay didn't respect his mic, because he would do a freestyle here and there. He would do a song here and there. But you have to earn the right to. Jay-Z he's not doing a feature. Like, he did a feature with Juvenile, the hot remix, but it's like Juvie was the hottest thing in the South at that time. Like, he had to earn that. Like, certain people, like, I'm not gonna just jump on a song because 10 years from now, 20 years from now, people's gonna be like, I got a song with Jay-Z.
Yeah, and I honestly,
tell me nothing.
Jay is very few. I don't know. In fact, I don't know if he's ever done a feature that I probably would have recommended against just because he can do what he wants. But I do lose respect for when Kanye did Slow Down with Paul Wall, and Paul Wall's verse is just so garbage. It's just to me, and it's
I think I like Paul Wall on the chorus though.
Paul Wall on the chorus, but Paul Wall's verse is just it's like what? But see, that just diminished it. It made me lose respect for both of them somehow. Like
my thing is Paul Wall. I don't think Paul Wall was supposed to turn it down because that was big for him. But I think Ye should have just kept him at the chorus because the drive slow, homie, like that's a good chorus.
I love that.
But it's like when Paul Wall part comes on, it's kind of like I could skip it and I'll be fine.
Mountain sends you with some bowling. Like
I
get it, bro. Like,
I like see now Paul Wall with what is it, Slim Thug and Mike Jones?
Who?
Like that, that's more.
That's in your style. Like everyone's on the same page. It's like, hey, I can groove out. Like I can really get into that. Like you guys are like 8-Ball, MJG. Get some. Get Scarface on there if you really want to get lyrical, but keep it in the same style.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So Jay-Z's your all overall. He's mine too. Like I used to say 1A and then 1B because Lupe Fiasco is a guy that I just from mixtapes all the way.
For me, I feel like you know what it is. I think people gravitate to artists where when they're rapping, you can relate to like a lot of the stuff that they talking about. And Jay's a lot older than me, but Jay showed he's lyrical and he can switch up his flow and he can talk about something that's current or something that we don't know about yet. And then years later, you figure it out like, oh, he was talking about this.
It's like, oh, man, that song was that much better right in that moment when you said it that way, and I didn't even know it.
Yeah, and even when he did the Funk Flex freestyle, the first line he said, Flex didn't get it. And it was just like what he said, I'm so independent, I might buy Koch, I might not stop, places to cop. 76th floor, you could call me the doc. And he was like trying to explain it to Flex, and Flex couldn't get it. He's like, Dr. J played with the 76ers, like, and it's just like, like his mind, like the double entendres, the metaphors, the punchlines, like you have to think about it. But it's not.
The thing about Jay is he brought the passion. This is how I like the things you got to have in your hip hop. But he teaches you something, like you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is he brings a passion, but I feel like there's certain people that shift the culture. Like when Jay says something's hot, like he was imaginary players, man. Like he was talking about platinum and come on, volume 1.
Yeah.
Platinum? Like people's not even he's talking about, those ain't Rolex diamonds. Like, and look at everybody now just running around with fake Rolex diamonds and and it resonates now. That was what, 98? Volume 1, 97, 98?
96.
97?
Oh, volume 1, 97.
That was 96.
Reason why 96, 97, and 98.
97. So it's just like, come on, man. Like, how many years is that? And it resonates now. So, like, for me, it's kind of like he's just way ahead of his time. And, there's so many artists, that passed away that I felt like that was ahead of their time as well because they just brought a different energy. Like Big L. Big L was like way, like the stuff he was talking about was just like, huh? Like, why is he talking about this in the 90s? And, Pun lyrically was Assassin. There's so many people, man. Like, Nas is, see, for me, I give Nas that because I don't know if he's in my top 5, but I respect his mic because him just No, I don't want to say consistent because he took years off as well, but I feel like he's just one of them people where he like his message was different, but he can get on, he could do an ether song, or he can do my favorite Nas verse is the Mobb Deep song he did, It's Mine. Like I love that song because he just brought that aggressive, I'm a style on you type of flow and stuff he was talking about, I could kind of relate to a little bit. But there's certain people that just come in the game and shift the culture. Like, 50, what he did with the mixtape thing, like he shut it down, man. Like it was 50 and Dipset. Like it was G Unit, Dipset. They just brought a different energy. They brought a different Dipset more fashionable, but they could still rap and they talking about a leather jacket that you want or a pair of jeans or like just the appearance and the visual of it.
Back in that time in New York, was it kind of like pulpable on the streets? Like which sets were like in at that time?
Um,
Like how was it aside from just the music? Like how did it affect the culture having those big
yeah,
sets
yeah,
in New York, and how did that kind of
Dipset, Dipset brought Dipset had people buying bandanas and fabric glue and cutting it and putting it on the Air Force Ones and Pelés and big hats and jerseys. Fab too. Fab had people putting bandana tissue under their hats. So like all of that, man, listen, like culturally, like we looked at them and we wanted to be like them. Like
Mhm.
those are the people that we respect their music, but fashionable as well. Like we seen that, G Unit, they was more on the thorough side. They was more the gangster baggy jeans. So like there was people that was doing that.
Mhm.
50 had people wearing them funny tank tops. So like it's just like with them, it's kind of like we paid attention and you know, same thing with Diddy when he did Sean John and a lot of people was running around with Sean John Velours and Beanie Siegel and them did state property jackets. The flight jackets was good.
Were you seeing that stuff, especially I guess like that's late 90s early 2000s, so I guess kind of the internet culture was kind of just getting kind of started. Were you
No,
seeing like
we
how
was seeing it in
soon
the
were you seeing it
store.
in the streets before you were seeing like fashion change, like those companies really taking it off? Were you seeing
Um,
Rockefeller and
we was seeing it. I think in the stores, man. If you was in those stores, the stores would have it, and if you was paying attention, you would see freeway and a state property flight jacket. So when you identified it in the store, you was like, "Oh, that's the same jacket that Free or Beans or Chris or Neef or whoever, like because they was wearing hoodies and the flight jackets. So we would identify it in the store, like, oh, they got this. Oh, but even when Fab and DJ Clue was promoting academic jeans, the academic jeans was like one of the first jeans that was $100. That resonated in the hood.
yeah,
Like a lot of hood stores wasn't selling jeans for $100. Like you had Pepe jeans that, Dipset wore and that was kind of like the thing in the hood. Those were 70, 60, $70. But the academic, they came with a different energy. And then a lot of brands started following that, like
yeah.
Azor, Sevens. But they was like, oh, they could sell jeans for 100. We
Tr-
could too.
True Religion will sell for 300.
Yeah, but you know what it is? True Religion in them was relevant because they had like certain artists was wearing it. Like Jim and them was wearing it, and
But it was
they
unique
had that.
enough,
It
it
was that
stood out.
rock star.
If you saw it, you're like, oh, that's True Religion.
Yeah, you had Ed Hardy, you had True Religion, you had Antiques, you had Rockin' Republicans, you had Red Monkeys, you had Evisu jeans, like all of that was like around. True Religion might have been a little after Avizus and Red Monkeys and stuff like that, but when those took a back seat, it was Antique, Rockin' Republic, and True Religion. Those are like the 3 top jeans that everybody was wearing.
Yeah.
And then 7 All Mankind, but people were
remember
still
that.
wearing them as well.
I'm
Yeah.
glad that we're kind of out of that because I remember it all of a sudden. It was just like, oh, you like these jeans? Well, these jeans that we've designed to look the way you want them to look all now cost $300, and that's just what it is.
Yeah.
But now we're back
Yeah,
into
yeah.
where just like you can buy whatever jeans you want. Nobody gives a fuck. You can pay $40 or $300, and they look the
Yeah.
same.
I mean, for me, when I'm going shopping, I kind of want to shop quality, and I kind of want to shop something that's like more of an essential, like simple. Like it
Mhm.
doesn't have to be, I have loud pieces, which is, I feel like everybody has like a couple loud pieces in their closet, but I'm more of a simple. I don't want people to be able to identify exactly what I have on,
Mhm.
and
I wear the basics, no logos,
yeah, I want the
except for
question.
a logo piece.
Yeah, I want the question to be asked. I want the question to be, yo, what's that? Because
Yeah.
I feel like if you're wearing what everybody else is wearing, that question's never gonna happen because it's just like I know what he's wearing.
When I knew I was the first time I came to New York, 'cause I was actually on the way to my very first Yankees game. It's back in 2013. Mark Teixeira's last game, and
Okay.
I stepped on the train, first time on the train, going to the game, whatever, and these 2 people, cool looking New York looking type people. They're like, bro, like, where did you get that jacket? Where'd you get them shoes? Like, I'm like, just stepped off the plane from Arkansas. And I'm like, oh, I blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It just felt.
No, they're gonna ask. They're gonna ask. People's gonna ask that. And I think if you was wearing something that they're familiar with, that question doesn't even happen.
Yeah, that's why I was like, but I felt like, okay, I'm bringing something new to the table. I got a different perspective. And
Yeah.
I don't know. That one moment kind of really energized me just to move like in New York, just because like it just felt normal and natural to be wearing, because that's how it would be in Arkansas. Be like, yo, where'd you get that? But to do it in New
hmm
York was like, okay,
Yeah.
New York's not that big scary thing that I'm gonna get crushed under. I can carve out my
Yeah.
own space in here and figure my way
Yeah.
out. And that was, as dumb as that is, it was kind of that one little thing was what, like in that very beginning, that kind of helped kind of push me over the edge. That's what fashion
Who
can do
who
for you.
would you say is your top 5 rappers that are alive?
All right. And this is where it gets hard. As we get older, we
Yeah.
start having to sacrifice members off of our top 5 as new people come in, and we get a bit greater body of work. So I've kind of established like just my go-to.
You can have like 2 honorable mentions though too.
All right. Well, Jay, Lupe. See, Nas is kind of falling out is the thing. That's why I'm like,
Yeah.
I want to keep him. I want to give him a permanent space in my top 5 though.
You know what? Let's make the question more
All
interesting.
right.
If you had to pick 5 rappers to go against any other 5 rappers in the world, what 5 would it be? Like if you was creating like a dream team, pretty much.
Jay. See, J. I would love to see. I really think Lupe could make people feel real dumb as he dumbs it down for him.
Yeah. I mean, not battle, but just more so like, yo, this is my dream team.
Honestly, I'd put my boy James Ellis. He'd be on that for sure.
Okay.
He's out of Atlanta, but by way of Arkansas. But in terms, I've honestly never seen anyone come close to competing with what he can come off the top of his head. So
yeah,
that one, I don't know. We'll just have to get him in a room some point and prove it, I guess. Who I would not bring to a battle is Kanye, unless he can have a lot of time to think about it and really.
A ghostwriter, right?
couple ghostwriters.
I would probably say Jay.
T.I.
I would say. You would say T.I.
I would be interested in the hype aspect of what T.I. could bring to that group as they were battling somebody else. I think he would be a nice little addition.
Yeah, I would probably bring T.I. I would probably bring Jay. I would probably bring Stack, that are alive. I would probably bring Jada. Definitely maybe Beanie Siegel. Siegel was tough. And
I'd
his
bring
albums
Freeway
was
though if
good
you
as
brought
well.
Beans, then to battle back.
Yeah, I was gonna say Free, but you know what though? I think this is why Jay was always gonna have the love for Freeway because nobody mastered his flow. Like his flow is till this day, like nobody raps like Freeway. Nobody. He's like what we do is wrong. Like, oh my God. Cause when the teeth stop showing and the stomach start growling and the heat stop working, I'ma rob me a person. Yeah, Freeway was on a different type of. And Philadelphia Freeway was a classic album to me. Like people, not people slept on it because it did really well in sales, but now when people listen to it, they like, yo, like Free really had a good album. Like his album was good.
There's like a certain
Um,
time frame in there.
I would probably bring 50 to be the bully. I think Fifth, what he did to hip hop, like he really made taking somebody's song and making it his, like he's the master of that. Like he's the person that started that. Not saying that it hasn't been done, but I think he's the person that when you identified the song, you thought it was a 50 song. But
Like
nah, it
Drake
was like
does
somebody
now.
totally else. Yeah. There's somebody totally else song and it's like, nah, I just borrowed this.
My favorite version of, and this is a trivia question I would do at my bar when we would do late night like hip hop trivia and stuff like that. I would play Dear Summer off of
Mm,
Memphis Bleak's album. I'd be like, all
yeah.
right, what
Maybe
album
don't
is this
miss
song?
you.
And
Yeah, like that.
that's
Oh
the
my
the
God.
most
Like
direct
that.
aspect of
That was,
somebody else's song.
yeah. And I never understood that part. I never understood that
I
part.
love the song though.
I never
I
534. Like I never. I don't know. Maybe that was an accident, man. It had to been because
put it on the wrong album.
like Memphis Bleak. No, but you know what it is though too. They did it with another song on Beanie Siegel's album with Jay. The song Anything on Beanie Siegel, the Truth album.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
Like it was like I'm like, why is Jay's song on Beanie's album and
Do you think it
it's this
was
song?
to get? I know that's why I never could understand. Was like, why would Bleak even like in that both of those scenarios? I'm like, bro, just put
Yeah,
it in a
that
secret
never made
song on one of your albums or
sense.
something.
I think honestly, when they probably released it, it might have just been
A song
I
short,
don't know, man.
just threw one of his on there.
I don't know because even it wasn't like bonus songs. It was songs
Like,
that was
yeah,
just like on the album. So I can't figure it out. That's I always thought that though. Even not more so Dare Summer because like I was just like whatever. But I always thought anything when I'm like, why is this on Bean's album? Like, is this a mistake? But now that you mentioned Dare Summer, is like I remember it being on a Memphis Bleak
yeah.
album because when they promoted it, that was really like I don't even think it was more like a song that was just playing on the radio. Like that song was like living on its own.
Mm-hmm.
Dare Summer, like no nothing. Like Jay didn't
No,
have an album coming
you had to
out. It
know
just
that it existed.
yeah, like that wasn't one of those songs that, there's a whole single coming on Jay's album. Like it was just a song that lived on its own. And it's very rare that at that time Jay-Z was just throwing a song and just let it live on its own. And that did really, really well because it was always on the radio. Like it was always on the radio out here.
I'm trying to think if I got one other person. Okay, so I'm gonna If you're bringing
Andre,
Freeway and all those guys, I'm gonna bring Talib
yeah,
and
Most
and
Def was
Common,
dope
Most
too.
Def. We'll bring those guys over from
Yeah,
Chicago.
those was good. artists, man. Those are really conscious rappers.
Talib lyrics
Like
sticks to
him,
your wrist.
yeah, like the conscious rappers, like they Most Def, Common, Talib Kweli, Consequence, Q-Tip. Like those was like I love Ye then because Ye was around
Hmm.
that soulful
Yeah, well, that
musical
was
thing
what.
where
See, back then I was convinced that, like, because when Common B's album came out, like, that was all Kanye
I
produced, and there was,
love that intro.
yeah, but it was, as Blueprint, or what was it, H to the Izzo. After that, you kind of, that introduced us all to that soulful beat, and then kind of,
Mhm.
and then you started kind of mess. Talib had one, and Common had one, Most Def had one. They were kind of just messing around, and then College Dropout came out, and then you really didn't have a good radio friendly, like, conscious rap song unless Kanye did the beat to it, and it was about the only way you were going to get any radio play is if you had a Kanye soul beat.
He was kind of like the person that was like, and you know what is so crazy? Because No ID was doing. I mean, no, not No ID. Who did 444? Was that No ID? No ID. Yeah, No ID was the one that was doing it. So that's Kanye's mentor. So he was doing it as well. But Kanye signed with Rockefeller. Like he was doing it before Ye, but he signed with Rockefeller and he became the bigger producer slash artist. And 444, it sounds like a Kanye. It could have been a Kanye soulful album,
Mm-hmm.
but ID he went crazy on that. I think we was talking about top 5 Jay-Z albums on Clubhouse the other day, and for me, I remember when American Gangster came out and people hated it, and I
I
loved it.
loved
Like
American
I
Gangster.
loved the
I loved
album.
the movie though too, so it was kind of just a companion
Yeah,
piece.
but I remember people was kind of like, it's okay. But I feel like down the line it appreciated more. And I think 444, like the people's gonna appreciate that album more because Jay really was given
It was raw
like
and emotional, and but
yeah,
also
and
like a
he was
lot of.
giving you that entrepreneurship. Like he wanted you to like why we wasting time doing that when we could be doing this? I think people are so uh close-minded on certain things. People do a lot for the look. People want to look like maybe the younger artists. People's not looking at Jay-Z fashionable wise. People's not looking, but they should be looking at him business wise. They should be looking at
People our age that are looking. That's kind of the graduation. We've graduated to that age where we can look to those guys that are now 40 and 45, 50 that have made the moves.
yeah,
They've done it, and then that gives us some
yeah,
guidance to look towards. Okay, this is what I need to be working
yeah.
towards. Kind of slow
My thing
down
is like
on the other shit.
I'm not looking at artists that's younger than me, and I'm not looking at little babies, and not to even throw names out there,
Yeah.
but I'm just not looking at them
No.
for growth.
No.
Not saying that they're not doing any grown man moves or things, but there's a certain look. There's a look where, they gotta have 5 chains on. They gotta have a bust down watch. They gotta be driving a foreign. They gotta be doing this. Like, I don't care for any of that. I think Jay kind of like he definitely solidified that in my mind with 444. Like, yo, it's cool, man. Like, I never took a money photo in my life, but we don't put money to our ears. Like, we don't call that real money. Like, it's not. Get a bank account. A lot of these people don't even have bank accounts, but you still putting money under your mattress. It's just, growing as a person.
But
Man.
somebody has to tell. I mean, not that it's his, like, that's where people are learning how to do stuff, but, like, it's important to talk about things. It's important to have some grown discussions. And I appreciate that as a grown adult and a grown man to hear that shit in my music, just like kind of reflect, and it helps you kind of, it's inspirational for me. And I think it is for a lot of people in our generation.
Yeah, we needed that album. We needed that album so much. Like I love that album. We needed that album. But just to hear different people's point of views and why, and like Jay just had so many great albums, man. Like some albums I could live without, but it's songs that's on certain albums that's like, yo, it resonates. And, you know, even if you didn't really fully love the album, there's songs that like I wouldn't be able to live without
There's still a
from
song
Jay.
on, at least one song on every single album that I'm just like, all right, I don't care, just get it to. Okay, I got to hear this. I got to hear it right now because this fits this exact
Yeah,
situation and
yeah,
moment, and I need to hear this very specific
hmm
Jay song.
for sure. And that's
Just like I love, like anytime I'm
anything.
down, for some reason, if I'm walking down on like Fulton Mall area, I like listening to like the 22 twos off Reasonable Doubt. Like I just really love. In fact, I
Yeah,
like listening to the whole
yeah,
Reasonable Doubt when I'm just walking in that area. For some reason, that just feels
yeah.
like that album. But that's, I don't know. That's the thing about those really inspirational and like one of a kind artists.
I don't know, man. Hove is just a different type of artist. He said he could do it till he's 70. So
That's what I want. That's all I want. I used to think about that when I was a kid
I hope so.
and picturing myself in my 60s or 70s, like with, top down, like just blasting some shit. Hopefully, I'm still
Yeah.
like into that kind of. But I also want that same. Hell, I want Jay to make music until he can't anymore. Just because when's the last time you heard an amazing 75-year-old rapper? But in 35 years, I bet we do.
He was just saying as long as he could think, he could rap.
Yeah,
That's it. Like when he broke it down, I was like, yo.
that's probably a good. We've been on here about an hour and a half, so that's probably a good place to go ahead and cut there for the show. We're gonna go
Yeah.
into what I like to call closing time lightning round. This is where I ask you a bunch of questions that are guaranteed to have people approaching you on the
Okay.
streets because of how controversial their answers are. So,
All right.
all right, a couple things already on here. Nas or Jay-Z? I already know this one.
Jay-Z.
All right, we're gonna go old school here. K-Swiss or BK Knights?
I would say British Knights because British Knights, I remember the older heads wearing those more so than K-Swiss. K-Swiss is kind of like more for the chicks than the guys.
K-Swiss came, so BK Knights I had back late 80s, early 90s. I remember I had a pair, like 91, 92. And then, but K-Swiss came in sometime later in Arkansas. Not, but they were definitely mostly
Okay.
for the chicks in the 90s. But like sometime in early 2000,
Yeah.
like when Lugs kind of took off,
Yeah.
and it was like Lugs, K-Swiss. I guess I
I'll
was
say
talking about
British
British Knights
Knights.
because I never had any K-Swiss. Are you beer or liquor?
I don't drink, but I would definitely say liquor, probably.
I kind of had a feeling you might not drink.
Yeah, the smell of beer is like it's a lot worse to me than liquor. But I would probably say liquor if I had to choose.
Feel like, oh, I know because all the old heads are Knicks fans around here, but Knicks or Nets?
Nets.
Nets?
Only because my boy Kyrie's on the Nets.
Being from Arkansas, I didn't have a,
Yeah.
we didn't have a pro team. I was a huge Bulls fan, so I never liked the Knicks, hated the Knicks. Obviously Jordan,
Yeah.
Pippen, and then I kind of picked my teams because of players from Arkansas. So Pippen was with Bulls.
Yeah.
Then right after that, I got another dynasty when Derek Fisher got drafted by the Lakers, and then
D Fish, yep.
but because of my Arkansas connections, it's allowed me to pick up fandoms for two of the greatest of all time, which I've really appreciated.
Yeah.
But the Knicks never were.
Big L said it the best, man. He said, I'm from New York and I'll never be a fan of the Knicks.
Yeah.
I can't,
No,
man.
I just can't at all. But the Nets, when they moved, so I couldn't do New Jersey Nets.
But even then, it was more exciting than the Knicks, I feel like, at one point, like in the 2000s with
Jason Kidd.
Vince
Yeah,
Carter,
I like that.
Richard Jefferson.
I liked all
had
those
a little
guys.
crew.
But when they moved here to Brooklyn, where I live now, Joe Johnson signed. Me and Joe went to college together, freshman year.
Okay,
Like,
Arkansas. Yep.
he lives in the building that I used to live in right before I left Arkansas, downtown Little Rock. He's like been around when he came to Brooklyn. I was like, okay, like that's what.
Yeah.
This isn't a Durant jersey. This is a Joe Johnson jersey back here.
Fire.
All right, on an '80s rivalry, Celtics Lakers.
80s. That's tough, man. It's tough. Larry Legend versus Magic. That's tough. I mean, I feel like I probably gravitated more to the Lakers. I mean, that's before my time, but my uncle used to let me watch all the tapes, but you know, the way Magic played was flashy. You know, he had Kareem, he had who else was on that
Worthy,
team? Magic,
Kurt
Worthy, James
Rambis.
Worthy. Yeah, like but Bird, man, Bird was he got it. Oh my God, man, Bird scored what 30 points, plus points with his left hand, and said he was gonna do it.
Yeah, no, he
That's
was.
tough. Um, I'm more of a Lakers fan than a Celtics fan, but it's tough, man. My boy Kemba plays for the Celtics now, but in the '80s, but my favorite player is LeBron. So in the '80s, I probably would say the Lakers. I'll say the Lakers.
Trying to think,
That's tough, though.
but
That's a tough question because
I
they both.
remember playing on the playground. Like, I specifically remembered yelling "Bird" as I was, stepping back, doing fadeaway
Shooting.
three.
Nah,
So,
man, Bird was
but the
tough,
Lakers,
man. What was it? Kevin McHale, like
yep,
what? Robert
Robert
Parrish and them.
Parrish,
Yeah.
the Chief.
That's the Chief, yo. That's tough. That's probably the greatest rivalry ever, like
We
ever.
had two teams that were worthy that could just, all right, I'll see you
Yeah,
next year.
yeah. The only thing maybe that came close was like not even close, man,
Not
because
for a whole decade
I
though.
don't
Like,
even want to say Mike, but like, it was Mike. I feel like everybody was gunning out for Mike. The
yeah, it was two.
Pistons.
It was different people every 2 years. They were getting a different
Yeah,
cast of villains. That
Seattle. It was Seattle, it was Utah,
Utah.
but to be that, nah, man, it was basically almost even.
Yeah,
Those
and you remember they came in
rivalries.
'79 together, and then
Yeah,
dominated the '80s together. Just the
yeah,
two of them.
yeah. It was basically even, man. So I mean, I would say the Lakers, but if somebody said Boston, I wouldn't be mad. I wouldn't be upset at it.
No, I don't think. I mean, I think Boston won more championships, so that's an easy
Yeah,
way to go about it. But I don't know. The Lakers had a more exciting team. That's for damn sure.
yeah.
All right. Couple more. What's a rapper that's grown on you as of late? Someone that you did not expect to, maybe in the last year. That's like, okay,
Grown. I'm so picky, man. Uh, when it when it comes to rappers, I'm so Benny the Butcher, and I actually did a hat with him. Benny the Butcher, him and Conway. Benny, for me, Benny has one of the top albums of 2020, and I told him that even before I did the hat and stuff like that with him. But Benny's tough, man. Because when they told me, I was just like, all right, but where's he from? They was like Buffalo, and I'm like Buffalo, and I'm almost for sure they get that a lot because
mm-hmm.
it's just like, oh no, they from New York, but where? And it's like, nah, they from Buffalo, and it's like, I can't listen to no rapper from Buffalo, like, because it's like my mom. But then it's like when I listened, I was like, nah, this kid is nice. Like, he's nice and calm. I'm like, nah, they nice, man. Like, yo,
All right, well, that's good.
like
I haven't
if
listened to
I
his
had
new
to
album,
pick
so
five, if I had to pick five in like the new, I don't even want to say the newer generation because they been rapping for so long, but like
yeah,
I had to pick like five current rappers that I'm listening to. Benny's definitely in there for sure,
he's got a
100%.
new Bills Mafia anthem that came out on January
Yeah.
4th. I'm about to check that out.
Yeah, man, I'm happy for him, man, because the way he reps Buffalo and just talking to him and like he's representing Buffalo, him, West Side, and they putting people on and helping people come out of their circumstance, and that's the way you do it.
That's
That's
all. That's the only way to get respect. Where
yeah,
I'm from, like if you don't have a hand down as you have a hand up, then
yeah, yeah. So definitely, I would say Benny the Butcher.
all right. Is there Is there somebody out there that's just like, no, can't fuck with them at all?
A lot. There's too many to name.
There's so many.
Yeah.
Somebody that you wish
I mean,
that you thought
listen,
that you were
listen.
gonna be able to fuck with, but you can't. How about
Listen,
that?
but let me say this. Like, I get it. You know, my age is not the same as somebody that's a lot younger than me, and we had our times where people was putting out. You listen to music, now, and it's kind of like, damn, like we was really listening to this. We was really
Mhm.
like knowing word for word for this, like. So I get it. The immaturity, like they want to hear stuff that's catchy. They want to hear something with a certain beat. They want to hear. So I
Yeah, they're
get
trying to
it.
dance. They're trying to
I don't
get,
want to.
whatever.
Yeah, I don't want to shoot it down. I just don't consider it hip hop anymore. I just consider it as a different genre of music.
Yeah, no,
Like
I
they
completely agree
call
with you there.
like all of the music, like the songs that Pop Smoking was making was like drill music. So I think it's just like a different genre. Like, I don't think it's like,
Like
yo,
bounce, drill,
yeah,
screw. Yeah,
yeah,
I think we need to do a better job of kind of like acknowledge, because that's not something that's really talked about in hip hop, especially outside of two people that are like
yeah.
really
I just feel
into it.
like my thing is like we just say out slap rapper on
Yeah,
anything, and I feel like I don't think it's rap. Don't call it mumble rap. Just call it something else. Just call it a different genre. Just call it, drill music, or call it bounce, or call it whatever. Just come up with
yeah,
something. But I feel like, they slap rapper on it because it comes with a certain lifestyle, it comes with a certain look, it comes
but
with.
that's on the mass produced, fully processed side. Like that's
Hmm. Yeah,
what producers and shit are putting out. But
for sure.
all right, last one. What's your favorite designer, like currently, both like out there and someone that maybe we might not have heard of that you can kind of shout out and put on right now?
Favorite designer, John Elliott, for sure. It's been my favorite brand since 2013. I remember an atrium in Soho, which was Kif. Well, Kif was in the back of atrium, but I remember he had like one rack, and it was just like a t-shirt and like a pair of sweatpants, and just to see the growth like from it. Now having his own store in LA, they're about to open up a store in New York soon, and being able to talk to him and being able him wanting one of my hats, and just dope, man. It was just very, very dope. But for sure, John Elliott is my favorite brand. I think anybody that follows me and follows like the fashion and outfit grids and the outfits, they know like that's my favorite brand without really even saying it. It's simple. It's no crazy logos. Like he'll spice it up a little bit, but his clothes have a story behind it. Just like my hats. Like
Mm-hmm.
he'll have something where it's like Himalaya pants, right? These pants was made in Himalaya, and he's gonna break down, every single thing. Like he's a geek when it comes to like the fashion stuff, and I can relate to that, man. Like that's something I want to buy into. I want to buy
Mm-hmm.
into something. The quality has to be there because I don't want to buy something I wear it once, wash it, and it's over. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm past that stage, like as an adult, where now I want to buy for stuff that I could probably have for the rest of my life, or at least some years, right? So,
Yeah.
so for me, it's quality, and then the next thing is just the storytelling behind it. I gravitate towards it. So, like when he's dropping something and they drop it on the website, and it's like the story, like I'm sitting there reading it because I want to know what I'm purchasing, and I want to know what I'm buying into as well. So that's my favorite designer, but somebody people for people that don't know, I would say the crate, my boy Rel, and I would say JJ Grant, my homegirl Quay. Storytelling, quality, and it's not too much going on. Like I don't mind too much going on here and there, but when it's consistent and constant, it's kind of like it becomes too merchy for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think merch lives for the
That's its
moment.
own world.
It's for the
Yeah.
moment. It's for the moment. And, people, you'll end up sleeping in your shirts now that you was cherishing a year ago, like, or a couple months ago. Like, yo, this is the finest shirt ever. And couple months later, you sleeping in bed with it. So, like, it's more of a essential thing. It's more of a paying attention to details and, pretty much just telling a story, having a connection to it. So I would definitely say uh, the Crate NY, that's their Instagram, and JJ Grant, no space. It's like two brands that I know them personally, but like I love what they're doing.
You said Crate NY?
Yeah, the Crate NY,
The
yeah.
Crate NY and
Mhm.
JJ
JJ Grant.
JJ Grant. All right, yeah, check those out. I'm gonna check those out and see what's going on up with them. All right, that's the end of our time. I really appreciate you joining me on the show, Bob.
Nah, for sure, man.
I want to let people check out your stuff. What's the best way for them to go and find all the things you've been working on and stay in contact with you?
If they follow me on Instagram, the link is in my bio. Style by TMark. It's spelled the way it sounds, stylebydtmark.com. But Instagram,
All right. Well, I've got a guest bartender coming up on our next segment. I don't know who it is yet, but we'll find it on the other side. Once again, special thanks to Terrel Marcus. TMark got kicks and styled by TMark. Stuff's everywhere. Just Google it. You'll find it. We'll be back on the other side of this in just a second, and you stay right there, Terrell. All right, welcome back to the other side of the Unemployed Bartender. I'm here with our guest bartender today, Rafa Garcia Febles. Welcome to the show, man. I appreciate you joining us today.
Oh, dude, thank you for having me.
Yeah. So tell me about your bar. So you've been in New York City for about 10 years. Have you been in the hospitality industry that whole time? Or kind of tell us about your journey as you've been here.
Yeah, so I moved here 2011. I was just kind of working odd jobs, kind of listless, like a lot of people after college who end up in our industry. Like nothing was
Yeah.
really motivating me. The job market wasn't super awesome, and I started getting into cocktails just kind of as a hobby. Like when I wasn't at work or when I was at work, I was just like I remember I downloaded the Milk and Honey app, Bartender's Choice, because somebody recommended it to me, and it just blew my mind the way it was like categorized by spirit, and there was so many things to learn about. And I got the Jeff Berry Tiki app, and then I started getting all his books, and just like got really into it, making a lot of cocktails at home, made a lot of cocktails for friends, started throwing parties for that. And I hadn't worked in restaurants for a few years since I was in college, and met somebody through through a competition who was like, "Hey, I'm consulting on this. I know you have a day job, but do you want to come and just bartend for brunch?" And I thought, yeah, like super fun. And I ended up quitting my job and doing that full time. This was like 2013 early, and I've just been doing nothing but restaurants ever since. And I started getting into it or back into it from the like tinkering with cocktails and learning about spirits kind of side of it. Ended up moving more to wine, but kind of like a lot of people who end up in this industry for one reason or another, what really kept me here was love I loved taking care of people. I loved like being like their bartender, their neighborhood bartender, and having
Yeah.
people come back and introduce me to their friends and so on. And just like while it's a lot of fun to, tinker with ingredients and make your like, 12 pickup uh weird, delicious, novel thing, it's way more rewarding over time to just be like the guy who somebody comes, you just pour them a beer and they just sit and chat with you for an hour, 2 hours.
100%. For me, bartending, it's all about that connection that you get. But I like to kind of, for me, the most rewarding thing that I do when I bartend is when I have those customers that want me to make something that, long time regulars, and they're like, I'm feeling like something like this. And then you get to create something that because they've been a customer for so long, and you've got a chance to like analyze their tastes and what they like and what they don't like, and you can create this like unique, perfect thing for them and only them.
I love that.
And half the time I don't even remember what they are afterwards. It's just like, okay.
I always try to write them down because I find that happens to me. Or I'm like, where they're like, "Oh, make them that drink you made me 2 weeks ago," and I'm
Yeah.
like,
Just like, you know
they're like,
what?
"I think it had yellow chartreuse." Okay, cool. I'll figure it out. But yeah, there's no more rewarding feeling in the world than like having somebody just tell you like, "This is exactly what I wanted, and I didn't have the words for it."
Yeah.
Like, I feel like a lot of us had other kind of artistic pursuits before we ended up in this, but I just like nothing beats the instant gratification of like, let me make this just for you, and just immediately getting feedback from that person.
Yeah, it's I talk about on here all the time about the creative, how diversely creative and talented the bartending community is
100%.
as a whole. It's probably one of the most talent rich industries that are untapped out there. But that is, I think, a lot of it. You know, for me, I've done a bunch of different creative um, outlets in music and design and things like that. But it all comes down to that the appreciation someone else has for whatever you've created that ultimately, you know, was it appreciated or not, or did people like it, or did, you know, that's kind of what we're going for as we create something. So that's where bartending, I think, hooks us, is we're
Yes.
sitting there and we're like, I'm getting continuous instant gratification on something that I created for this person.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the fuel for a lot of people, just because it's when you love to create, it's nice when you get told how wonderful it is every day.
You write a story and you put it out there, and maybe you get feedback, maybe you don't. You upload a track to SoundCloud, like maybe somebody sends you a comment or not, but you make a drink for
Yeah.
somebody, they're right in front of your face. You're,
Yeah,
you're going
and
to
then
know
they're
what they
telling
think or
everyone
not.
else, like, "Did you guys see? Did you guys hear this drink? That's great." So you've been doing hospitality for since about 2013
Mhm.
on the bartending track. It sounds like. Tell me about where you were when everything changed this year or last year, I guess, almost a year ago now. Kind of what were you doing there, and then what have you been doing since then?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, I stepped more into som role, and I'd been into wine for a long time. It's if I'm just kind of drinking something, it's usually what I'm drinking, and I thought, but I really liked the culture of bars a lot more than the initial impression I got of like what I thought the wine. Like I don't know, like my wife definitely seems to enjoy hanging out with bartenders more than she does hearing us wine people be like, "Oh, but like, have you tried this vintage? No, you got to try
Yeah.
this one." Um, but I ended up making that more of my focus, and I got into management. I ended up taking a role at the Wythe Hotel in Williamsburg, where I'm the beverage director, opening a restaurant called Le Crocodile, and that opened in December of 2019. And if you've never opened a restaurant, it's like an all-consuming like marathon without a finish line in sight.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Constantly moving goalposts.
Constantly moving goalposts, constant like, oh, this permit didn't come through. Oh, actually, we're gonna, just sudden changes on a dime that require so much work to just shift your plan around. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I was deep in that, and in March we felt like we'd gotten the restaurant to a really good spot. And in the middle of the month, our New York Times review came out, and it was everything we wanted. Uh,
Yeah.
and then the very next week we were closed because of COVID. So it kind of just felt like we were racing to the finish line, and the finish line was in sight, and then boom. So it was. I really needed the rest, like just very selfishly when everything shut down. But it was obviously like scary and demoralizing, and we were lucky enough that our employer was able to float wages for everybody on staff, like inclusive of tip averages for the tipped employees, which I thought was like I felt so like I'd picked the right place to work,
Yeah.
just based on that. Um, but like that this is not a high margin industry that can only go on for so long. After a while, I was contacted to think about reopening and what that would look like. The rest of the year just felt like just opening a new restaurant every few weeks, to be honest with you, because the goalposts kept moving. What we were legally allowed to do, what seemed safe and sensible, kept changing.
Mm-hmm.
We were just trying to operate the restaurant as safely and comfortably as possible, both for employees and for guests. Uh, while at the same time trying to keep it busy so we can bring back everybody who'd been employed and make sure everybody had a good standard of living in the middle of a pandemic without like any, you know, government support. Um,
Yeah.
so we opened outdoors, we opened indoors, we converted, we're in a hotel, we converted a lot of the hotel rooms into private dining rooms, you know, and I went from running the wine program to taking over the bar program, which I loved. I was like, yes, I can do cocktails again. I
Yeah.
can make drinks, and I can, like, you know, if you it feels weird to step away from the bar if a lot of what you like about this is creative and a lot of what you like about it is guest facing. But after a while, you start thinking like the experience of sitting at the bar is kind of a creative endeavor too, and I want to be in charge of that.
Yeah.
So it was fun to just kind of think about what a bar could be like in the middle of a pandemic, and what is the value of a cocktail in the middle of all this. So we did that. We're lucky enough to be very busy until indoor dining shut down again, and we weighed things, and we thought honestly like the best option is just to close down. We did that in mid-December, and I've been hibernating ever since.
Yeah. I am right there with you. This is hibernation number 4, I think, for of 2-month plus hibernations I've had, with a couple
Oh
small
wow.
little breaks here and there. But I mostly just stay put because everything I've been working on physically in the physical space shut down March 16th. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Damn.
it's been something. So what are you doing? What are you doing now? In the last 3 months, you've had this time. Tell me about you got any endeavors or big things you're working on?
There's a couple of projects I'm working on that are in early enough stages that I can't really talk about them, but it's fun to get more into
Yeah.
the creative and operational side. Like I love being on the floor. I love being on the bar, talking with people, but it's kind of hard. It's kind of overwhelming to do both at once, to be like in charge of the planning and the logistics and also be the face of it all the time.
Yeah.
So it's nice to just be able to focus on, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? How would that work? And otherwise, man, I'm catching up on all the movies, all the TV, all the books, all the video games, all the media people have been telling me to catch up on.
Yeah.
Going on, I live by Central Park, so just going on walks in the park a lot.
Just imagine how what wonderful experience we could offer our guests with the knowledge we've accumulated over the last 9-10 months. I'm just like, well, you want to know what I think? As I read 17 books about it, and I
That's
officially, whatever. That's all I feel like I'm doing is just reading and consuming, and just like I need someone to give all this information back out to. No
I
one's asking
hope
me
so, man.
questions.
I feel like I have such pandemic brain a lot of the time, where I just feel
Mm-hmm.
kind of foggy and out of it, that
Oh, for sure.
I know I've heard other people talk about as well, but yeah, hopefully, ideally, I come back to this and it's like, oh yeah, I've read all about that. I know how to do this.
Yeah, 100%. So I was looking through your little profile I've got here for you, and I see your IG name at the Sommunist. I love I love that name. I'm assuming that means you're an official som,
Yeah,
or
that's
I don't know much about how the designation of the official use of a sommelier is acquired.
yeah. Um, Part of the story behind that is that a previous employer, my Insta handle was Champagne Socialist Bobby, which was just a Drake joke, and someone on the PR side got offended. Was like, I can't link articles to that, so I just doubled down on it. Um, but no, so Som is a word I'm never not going to feel ambivalent about, because
Hmm.
I associate it so much with like the exclusive, like hoity-toity
Yeah,
in crowd kind of side of this business.
I think that's everybody.
Exactly. Um, but like in an ideal world, at its best, all that means is I'm the person in this restaurant who's going to get you the bottle of wine that's going to make your night.
Mm.
And just like really knowing your cocktails and really knowing your spirits uh, can help you when somebody's like, I want something bitter but shaken. I want like help you answer questions like that. Being like really studying and knowing your wine is an invaluable tool, especially if it comes
Mm.
from a place of appreciation and genuine like for it. You know, so there are levels of accreditation. There are accrediting organizations within wine. There's no one official body that says now you can call yourself a som, now you can't. To me, uh, egalitarianly, if you do this job, if you are the steward of wine for the shift in your restaurant and your job is like get that wine to the table, you're a som.
You're fulfilling the tasks of a som in that particular moment, regardless of accreditation.
Yes. You can go through organizations like the Court of Master Sommeliers that has recently had a change in leadership that I hope will help steer that organization for the better. Which will, at which point, if you pass two of their exams, you are a certified sommelier, and that's generally like as a professional designation uh, where people start calling themselves that. But there's other organizations too. There's WSET, which uh, is more of a general like wine and spirits education, more so than like a service examination, but is a wonderful body as well. But it's not like there's a single accrediting body that says you can or can't call yourself this. I think we're starting to move away from that as a wine culture, and I think that's for the better. I think we should definitely always show like respect for experts, and I do not consider myself an expert. I'm a student. I'm somebody who's just trying to learn and share my appreciation of things. But I know that I might know more than a normal person about wine, but I also know that there's people like Pascaline Lepetier, who owns Racine's here in New York, who is, has won medals for being the best sommelier in France, who is a master sommelier, who
Yeah.
genuinely, like, anytime I hear her talk about anything, it's like I don't know as much about anything as she does about the subsoils of this one little corner of France. Um, like,
Is there a particular educational body or accrediting place that you would recommend if someone was like any bartenders that are out there like, hey, I would like to take this time to study more? Is there one and you were like, okay, this one, in my opinion, is the one you should go for, especially for an aspiring som?
yeah, I have not tried all of them, so I can't say anything. Like I can't
Mm-hmm.
speak with total authority, but I will say I really like WSET generally, and they're not just wine. They have different levels of wine, and you can sign up for the class that is at what you think is your level. Like you don't have to take level 1 to go to level 3 if you think you're already at level 3. I like it because it's very structured and it just gives you a textbook and it gives you classes, which is
Mm.
not the case with the Court of Master Psalms, which is the probably the most prestigious and mainstream recognized body, and which has a lot going for it. I would say level 1 of Court of Master Psalms, which doesn't have a service component. It's just a really tight 2-day class followed by a multiple choice exam. It's really, really good. Like I took it. I really do recommend it for the basic stuff that you are expected to know if you just want to have further conversations about wine. Like, what are the
Yeah.
grapes in Sancerre? If I say red Sancerre, what's the grape? Like things like that might seem a little intimidating. It's very good at making you feel like you can master that. Um, there's other ones that seem promising, but I can't really.
So when people refer to being a level 2 som, they're typically referring to
The court.
that course you just referenced.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just 4 levels, with the last one is master, of which I think currently there are fewer than 200 in the U.S.
Okay. Well, there
Super.
you go. That gives you something to strive for, guys.
Yeah,
Being a sommunist as you are, and being a show where we ask our guest bartenders to make a cocktail for us, I was hoping you might share with us a wine cocktail little fusion. If you have an idea for a drink,
absolutely.
um, I would love to hear it.
Yeah, so I love working with wine. Um, which sometimes makes other wine people cringe, because if you have like a really beautiful wine that's great on its own, you don't really want to be like, I'm gonna cover that up in lemon juice and Campari and a bunch of other stuff.
Mm.
Uh, but I think wine as like a texturizer is a really underrated ingredient in cocktails. We use stuff like sherry, we use sparkling wine, and that's great. I love sherry, I love sparkling wine, I use them a lot. But just still wine can be really valuable. So we have a drink at Le Crocodile, um, which does not even list wine as an ingredient, but it's really like it's the clutch secret ingredient in it, which is called the Veracruz. And it's our for the margarita drink on the menu. Um, but I really like taking the common categories, the common calls people are gonna always ask for, and just
Hmm.
crushing your house version of it. Like I at this point in my career care way more about that than like something esoteric. As fun as it is to introduce people to new flavors and new sensations. So the Veracruz is uh, Blanco tequila. It's a liqueur named Chirot, which is an eau de vie based liqueur with
Aloe vera.
aloe vera. Yeah, aloe vera is the main
Yeah,
flavor, but it's
I
got
love Chirot.
spearmint. I love it. Churro is who wouldn't like it?
Yeah.
It's aloe vera, spearmint, cucumber, and muskmelon, which is the kind of melon in Midori. Um, so it's that tequila, lime juice, a little simple, some hellfire uh, shrub, which is just a way to give it a little bit of spice and a little bit of like earthy, peppery flavor. And then it has a half ounce of a dry, semi-aromatic white wine. And the white wine is there to kind of soften the quality of the of the acid from the lime, while still making it really like tart and mouth-watering. It's also there to emphasize the like kind of green herbaceous flavors that you get from the hellfire and from the tequila and from the cucumber, just to give it some dimension, so it's not just a cucumber margarita. So when I started out, I was just using um, New Zealand Sauv Blanc because I had a lot of it, and that's great. It's a really ripe fruit forward style of Sauvignon Blanc that has like passion fruit and grapefruit notes, and like a big green bell pepper. I switched to a Loire white wine for a bit, but lately I've been doing it with Sylvaner, which is a uh, kind of sort of culty, but not really, German grape that it has a good amount of acid, a kind of lean to medium body, and then these lovely green notes, these kind of peppery notes that can add a lot of dimension to the drink. Um, we fly through that one. I've kind of subtly added wine to most of the cocktails on our list.
Reasonable enough.
Yeah, because I think they can just add a roundness, which make they really like bind other ingredients together, and they also just add another dimension that you're not seeing in enough cocktails, I think.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love it. Is that a wine that's readily available here in New York City, or what would you recommend if someone was or across the U.S. is where most of my listener base is? What?
I would say honestly, any Sauvignon Blanc that you like, don't use a wine you don't like, since you're going to be tasting it in this drink.
Mm.
Um,
So any light bodied white wine that.
Something with high acid and that's at least a little bit aromatic, which I mean like not a neutral wine. A neutral wine will taste fine in this. Something like Muscadet will taste fine in this, but you probably want something with a little bit of a citrus flavor and ideally a little bit of that peppery, green, grassy flavor. So Sauv Blanc is ideal for this, I think. It's just a half ounce. It's 1.5 tequila Blanco, half ounce of this wine, half ounce Chirot, half ounce simple, 3/4 lime, as much of the pepper shrub as you'd like. Shaken and on the rocks.
Shaken rocks. Excellent. Cool. Well, that's probably going to do it. I think we did what we always do, which is create a podcast episode, and that's always what I'm going for when I sit down to record these. So I really want to thank you and appreciate you, Mr. Febles, Mr. Rafa. I think there's some other stuff that we could talk about too, but I'm gonna have to get you back on here another time, and we're gonna talk about some of these syrups that I've heard about that you've been doing,
Yeah, absolutely.
and some other things. If you want to give Mr. Rafa a follow, you're on IG at somm.uinist, the Sommunist. Any other handles you'd like them to follow on other socials?
Please don't.
Make sure you track him down, follow him. He's out there. All right. Well, as I do at the end of every episode, I like to hop off of point, let you get over there. I'm going to get on Service Bar and let you close out the show any way you'd like. Whatever you want to tell us, it's your platform, your place. So I'll let you go.
Well, Keith, thank you for having me. I would say to your listeners, any way you can support your local restaurant industry, please do, whether it's ordering directly from them for cocktails if that's available, or food for delivery, or just donating to a lot of the great funds that are helping people get through this crisis. Hopefully we can see light at the end of this, and we'll by the fall have some semblance of a active restaurant industry. I, for one, can't wait to sit back down at a bar and just order a Manhattan and watch somebody make it and crush it. I hope all of you get to experience that too.
Awesome. I can't wait. As soon as the bars open, we're gonna have to get together and have one of those Manhattans, or make
Please.
one for each other and see how it goes.
Would love it.
Once again, thanks so much for joining me on the show. This has been the Unemployed Bartender Podcast. You can follow me at the UB Podcast on all social media outlets. We're on Spotify, theubpodcast.com. Make sure you follow our new Patreon page. Pick a thing and do that, and then I'll do the things associated with that thing on the page. That's how Patreon works. Like I said, thanks again for everybody listening. Thank you for being here, Rafa, and I'll see y'all at the bar.